Veteran Salute is sponsored by the Devon James Injury Lawyers.
A band of brothers, that's what one Kansas man calls the men and women he served with.
As Gwen Bevel and photojournalist Nick Kiefer show us, he was a platoon leader who continues to lean on his faith to heal.
Because Sergeant First Class Marty Byrne was such a successful Army recruiter for years, he was never deployed. That all changed since Byrne says he had sent so many men and women overseas. He says it was his turn.
War's not good.
Marty Byrne says those he served with will always mean the most to him.
We are a band of brothers.
He says the man you see here is a different man than the one in this photo from a military ball. This was captured after he returned from his 4th deployment.
It was the one that beat me down, mind, body, and spirit.
Byrne wanted desperately to deploy, so he moved to the Oklahoma National Guard to ensure he would, over and over again.
Because I told those guys that I went with to Iraq, that if they were going to deploy, I'd go again.
He said he knew his assignment to Afghanistan would be like no other.
We just didn't know how hostile it was.
Byrne says as a platoon sergeant, his job was to train them and bring them all home.
The sense of responsibility when you have, when it's life or death, it's a really hard thing to shake.
He says he'll never forget the request of one soldier.
I said, yeah, huddle up. So we prayed, and that was the first platoon I ever prayed in.
He says they had to rely on all the weapons in the arsenal.
We would get in these attacks sometimes, or these firefights. You know, these, I call them corn ninjas. They'd be moving around in the corn.
He says he owes the cover from above for saving his life.
They popped up on the scene one time when I was in a pinch. And they took out some guys for me that was 25 meters out.
He says they couldn't trust anyone in the desert, not even women and children.
Those people could walk us straight into an ambush.
Byrne says war comes at a high cost.
Fortunately, I wasn't able to bring them all home.
He says after losing one of his own, his comrades wanted revenge, so he went into a hostile area as bait.
When I took shrapnel to my left side of my face.
His prescription sunglasses saved his sight, but he says the real fight to save himself hadn't even started.
Sometimes it's hard to come out of that darkness.
He says many soldiers never actually leave the war zone.
Some of us here, we got one foot on this ground and one foot on that ground.
He says all of these medals belong in the old chapter of his life.
I was in a really dark place. Somebody stole the gun the day I was going to shoot myself.
He says his long-term service no longer defines the man he is.
It was the most complex of the 4 deployments.
And he says although it was the one that truly broke him down, it was also the one that lifted him up.
Realizing all the gifts from the struggles.
Byrne stresses he was at one time on a path of self-destruction, but he traded the nearly 30 pills he took each day for the Bible.
That's my main medicine, and prayer.
Byrne says he went on a pilgrimage to Israel with other wounded warriors.
We're all suffering from the same thing, spiritual, moral wounds.
That's why the once successful Army recruiter is on a whole new mission.
I need to get suited up for Jesus and recruit for him. I need to be in his army.
In order to deal with the trauma he faced, Byrne says he underwent extensive electronic stimulation brain therapy for about 8 months. Here for you, Gwen Bevel, KSN News 3.
On behalf of Devon James Injury Lawyers, we're honored to recognize Sergeant First Class Marty Byrne, who led troops in 4 deployments. Thank you so much for your service.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you for this great gift. I also like to thank the men and women I served with, and Jesus for his connectedness and the large village of patriots that has helped so many people come home.
Veteran Salute is sponsored by the Devon James Injury Lawyers.